Hey everybody, we are back with another episode of Black Girls Speak Up podcast. Welcome in. And I'm going to say it like I say every single week. We have an amazing guest and I'm really excited because one, I need to get my behind back in somebody's yoga studio and doing some yoga. Like I really need to. I used to do hot yoga all the time and life stopped and I stopped doing it. So today we have an amazing guest and she's going to talk about all things wellness and all the good things. But before we do that and we get into this conversation, let me have her introduce herself. Asatta, welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited you're here. I feel like this is going to be such a light and well conversation. It's just going to be so good. That's what I feel like.
Yeah, we're just going to kick it. We're going to
yes.
All things wellness. Because
honestly,
that's somehow all I can talk about, no matter what. I always end up circling back to like how it all ties into our mental health, no matter what.
Listen, that is what this podcast is all about. We're all about mental health and wellness as a whole, faith, all of those things and how they really go together. So this is the space just for you. So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you do.
Well, I'm Asatta Jones. I am an Orlando Bori. I like to call myself an Orlando Boricua. So I am a yoga teacher. I like to call myself a multi-hyphenate because I do a couple different things. I'm a yoga teacher. I'm a podcast producer. I also host my own podcast, and I'm also a professional voice actor. But the cool thing is that all of those different hats all tie into wellness communication. So I've been really blessed, especially in the last couple of years, to be able to just like stitch this career for myself where in every avenue I am communicating some form of wellness to the people, to the public, whether it's my yoga classes, whether it's the podcasts that I produce, whether it's the clients that I work with for voiceover. I've been really lucky to be able to get picky about the type of clients that I work with and what I lend my voice to amplify. So yeah, I like to call myself a wellness communicator, but that's a little bit about me.
I love that, the idea of creating that own space for yourself where every avenue of what you're working in is all about wellness and all about healing people and communicating wellness to people. Like, I think that is so good. And that's really purpose driven. It's so purpose driven.
It's been hard. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, I know.
Super rosy. It's hard, but recently I had the opportunity to go to Guatemala on a scholarship, and where I went to was Lake Atilan, which was once considered like the center of the world by like the native Mayan people. So there's like a lot of spirituality there. It gave me a lot of opportunity to reflect. And I just that was one of the things that really came to me where I was like, dang, I have really been able to create this life for myself where I'm communicating different aspects of wellness and encouraging people to be well in different ways. And that really fulfills me. And I'm really glad that I can do that. But I recognize the privilege that I have to be able to do that. So yeah, that's why I'm so passionate about it.
Yeah, but that is it's so beautiful to be able to even walk in that space where to know like, yes, this is a privilege, but also you are helping so many people with what you're doing. And so, yes,
it leads to collective care. And that's my mission. Because, personal liberation is great. I'm all for personal, spiritual liberation. But what's the point if I'm the only one out there? It's about collective community care. So it's personal liberation and collective liberation for myself, for my community. That's what it's all about for me in a nutshell.
I love that. So we're going to dive into some questions. So like what for you to be in this space now where you're seeing the impact that you're having on your community, you're seeing that you're able to help so many people, but also like living in your truth, was there a defining moment where you were like, I need to dive into my wellness? And then of course now you see that you're helping other people in the community, but for yourself, it started somewhere within you at some point. What got you to that point?
So I originally wanted to be a therapist, a marriage and family therapist. And so I was pursuing that route. I started working part-time at a doctor's office, and somehow fell into like that kind of career where it was like a lot of 9 to 5. A lot of things happened where I decided that, I don't think traditional therapy is my calling.
Right.
So I found myself working full-time at this doctor's office with women who have been there for like literally their whole lives, and plan to retire. Anyway, long story short, I ended up being so incredibly depressed. Like I would wake up in the morning, my feet hit the floor, and I would cry because I knew that this wasn't like being a receptionist at this doctor's office, although was financially stable.
Correct.
Let's get that clear. I was able to plot out my paycheck down to the penny for the entire year. And for somebody who came from like a really unstable environment that way, that was really reassuring for me. And being the primary breadwinner, coming from somebody who was raised by a single mom, that was like, okay,
huge.
I got this.
Yeah.
But the payoff was just soul crushing. And I just remember having dreams. Literally, I would dream that I was running. Where was I running to? I don't know. But I was just running. And at that time, I was like, oh, my body's telling me that I need to like exercise and lose weight. Like that's what it is. Exactly. And looking back, it could have been like a yes and situation because I was incredibly unhealthy at that time too. I was working a very sedentary job. I had a very unhealthy relationship with food and my diet. So maybe that was it.
It was part of it.
Part of it. But it was definitely my spirit telling like, run, get, like, this is not where you need to be. So yeah, that really was it. I was down bad. Your girl was down bad.
And that's so understandable in our world, especially becoming an adult. It hits you one day. You're like, wait, this is I work, I get up, I work, and then I go home, and then I go to sleep, and
I didn't see sunlight.
Yeah.
I would get up before the sun rose, and I left that building after the sun set, and that was just
it's devastating.
And also part of me didn't want to admit how much of I'm like a peace loving hippie. Like it sucks. Like I don't I want to be like, grind culture, badass, baddie, No.
That's not it.
The girl needs her feet in grass. I need to see sun.
Yes.
I need, that's what I need. And it took me a while to admit that about myself too, because also that took a lot of cultural unlearning,
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I can only imagine, because the idea of waking up in the morning and being the type of person you are now, to see you now, and I couldn't imagine you being in somebody's office all day. I couldn't. And so I know that took some time. So being in that position and as depressed, and that in itself, finally identifying that run, that dream that you were having to run was telling you it's time to set yourself free from this, is huge in itself. What were the next steps to this has got to shift. I can't, this is not it. And you can wake up one day and identify it, but it's like, what am I going to do about it?
What's the action?
Yes.
Oh man. So I will be honest, and I want to be honest with listeners, that bridge took a while. So it took there was a lot of, I had to give myself a lot of grace.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to like beat yourself up and be like, well, you need to do this. Why don't you get off your butt and do that? Like right. It's really easy. Also, I'm child free. So it's like, well, girl, you ain't got nothing but time. Why don't you, like it's all these things. When in reality, it's like, you're actually running your own business and you're literally the only person doing it. So like, you got to give yourself some grace, Asatta. Yes. But anyway, at that time, I was also, dealing with depression and self-defeating thoughts, and what, like I said, I chose to pursue exercise as like the first means, but at that moment, it was like, well, what type of movement is for me? Right. In my dreams, I'm running.
Right.
But your girl ain't a runner. Like, she is not. She's not. She's so not a runner. So I was like, in order for me to find a sustainable modality, I had to figure out what was good for me, and what was actually attainable, like financially. Because at this time, I'm also like in my early 20s. So I'm a broke college kid trying to figure things out, and I couldn't afford a bunch of like memberships and things like that anyway.
Oh no.
So I eventually landed on a very unconventional modality, but through that I found yoga. And honestly, that's when everything kind of clicked, where I was like, oh, I can be, I should mention, the first modality was aerial work. So I was an aerialist.
Oh, I tried that. I almost hurt myself, but I tried it.
It'd be like that. But so I was doing a lot of like really physical, active, like really high intense, like movement in the aerial space. And so coming down to the ground, getting grounded, like not just being in touch with my body, because I was getting in touch with my body. Yeah. It was more becoming aware of what my body was doing. Yeah. Because a lot of times it's like, yeah, I can recognize how I feel in my body, but maybe I'm fidgeting and I don't realize it. And there's just like things like that. Anyway, so it was really through yoga where I was able to put all the pieces together, because like a lot of people, the first entry point for yoga is like the physical asanas.
Yes.
But then as I learned about yoga, I unlearned a lot of things that I thought I knew about yoga. Yeah. Because I was raised Pentecostal, so there's just a lot of like.
Listen, that's all you gotta say.
Yeah, I think your listeners just went, oh, well, there you go.
Yes.
And so there's just a lot of stupid things where, even though as an adult, I recognized that no, they were not, Sanskrit isn't like worshiping the devil. It's literally
Correct.
Just another language.
Correct.
Let's be educated about this. There's a small part of me that's like, oh, your grandma's so mad right now. She's so mad at you right now. So there's just a lot of unlearning of that. But once I did that, and I realized that yoga was more than just the physical postures. It was mental, it was physical, it was also observance of how you speak, what you do in the world, how your actions affect the people around you. I was like, oh, I didn't know that there was actual words for things that I knew inherently were true.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, okay, cool. This is a path that I can truly see myself authentically going down, and it really just shifted how I lived, and also how I communicated what being well actually was.
Yeah.
Because also for a while being well was just being thin and looking skinny, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
And that's so good, because it allows yoga, for me especially, like when I first started it allowed me to slow down and be more self-aware, and be more in touch with what I was actually doing. Whereas now, like I do high intensity training, I do strength training, I do all this other stuff, but I started yoga in my early 20s when I was in college still. So it's like I get that perspective of like where you were in that time. I'm just trying to figure out something that's going to allow me to be well, to feel well about myself, and not everybody else's standard of what that looks like. And as somebody that's for majority of my life, I actually talked about this on one of my last episodes about when you're going through depression and when you're in certain spaces, you try to find like ways to manage that. And you're trying to find things that'll help. Me, I was working out all the time. Imagine if I had switched my perspective of like, let me slow down, let me do yoga versus let me go to the gym all the time. I got so thin because I was trying to find a way to like cope with things and deal with things, and people thought that, oh, she's fine.
the positive reinforcement because you're thinner.
Yeah.
It's fat phobic. Let's call it for what it is.
Yeah.
But also it is just like such a common misconception that like, oh well, this person's thin and they're working out, so they must have a healthy relationship with, you know, their mental health, their diet, whatever. You just really can't tell. You just really can't tell. I mean, I know how to put on a mask like nobody's business.
Listen.
So nobody at work, you know, I don't think anybody at work understood how heavy it was to just be in that space, to have their energies, because also those women were deeply unhappy as well.
Oh, for sure.
It just kind of like that kind of hate, like breeds hate type of situation. So you can't tell what people are going through.
You really can't. And I know, like you said, it took some time for you between like once you identified it to actually come out of that. But in that time frame, you started to like really develop like some healthier habits to try to like get yourself out of that. Roughly how long was that process? Was this over like some years?
I would say it was so I worked at that job in total for 4 years. So there was about the last 2 years where I was like, okay, I gotta do something.
Yeah.
And then it was like trying to figure out what that something was. Is it high intense cardio? Is it, you know, like going to the gym and then like not using the membership type of thing? It was trying different things.
Yes.
And it wasn't until a friend of mine, Nicole, she took me to a yoga class. She was like, you know what? You got to come to this yoga class. This woman kicks our butt. It is super intense. If you really want to work out, like, and I was like, okay, like, I didn't know any different.
Yeah.
And I went, and it was, at first I was like, okay, this is a little weird. Okay. But I could get down with the movements, and I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of like Pilates. I used to dance when I was younger, and the movements were like that teacher kind of taught like a very dancey style type class. So I was like, okay, this is fun. Like I could get down with this. So it was really that introduction that really changed it. And then I started to go to more yoga classes. And then I was like, there became an opportunity to take a training years down the road. But that initial bridge, I want to say was like a year and a half. Like it really was a lot of me being unhappy, knowing I was unhappy, not knowing how I could change it, dreaming about running. Like, where am I running?
Yeah.
I don't know, but girl was running. And also just like, and then I was like, okay, maybe I just need to like move my body. And then, I would take a different type of like workout classes.
Yeah, just trying different things. So I feel like there is that bridge. Once you cross that bridge, there is then the phrase, the sense and time where you're like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm still figuring this out. Was there another, because I feel like we go through several like cycles and defining moments of like, okay, like I'm reaching the next phase, the next level. So you get to that space where you're like, okay, this is feeling more like me. This is feeling like I'm reaching the next part of my life. Did you go ahead and say, I'm out of here? Because I know we get to a point where we're like, all right, I'm going to jump ship. It was nice to know y'all. I'm out of here because I understand now that this is not where I'm supposed to be. This is not my purpose in life. I don't even know what the next phase is, but I know that it's not here. I know that it's not here. And I've definitely had those moments. So I'm curious how that looks for someone who is entering the wellness space. Like, I've done that as a photographer. That's what professionally, I'm a photographer. So I've had those moments where I'm like, all right, like, I've been doing this for a while. Like, I was a substitute teacher at one point, and them kids,
Ooh, I have so much, like literally everyone in my family, they are teachers, except for my brother and my sister. They are not teachers, but everyone else, they are teachers or professors in schools, universities. And I held on to like, I'm not going to be a teacher. And they're just like, just come to the other side. Just come to the other side. You get the whole summer off. Come on. And I'm just like, I can't do it, guys. I can't, and I won't. I can't, and I won't.
It's a lot. I did it for 4 years. For 4 years, I was, this was like in my early 20s. That's why I'm like, I understand like where you were. In my early 20s, I was a substitute teacher.
Because you just do whatever, like you just trying to figure
it out. Yes.
In your early 20s, you know, like what can you do? What works?
Yeah, I did that. And then after year four was like, yeah, Jasmine, this is it. These kids are a different breed now, and you don't have the mental capacity to deal with this. So you need to make a change. And so in that specific season, I was like, I'm a photographer. Why am I not doing photography full time? So I started transitioning. I knew that it was gonna look completely different for me, and I started shifting that. So career-wise, because I know there's the mental aspect that it took on you, like the depression, trying to get out of that, trying to, figure out what that dream really meant for you, and running towards that new goal. But career-wise, let's just talk about the career aspect of it, because being an entrepreneur and working in somebody's office 9 to 5, completely different. And so you have to shift your mind there. Like how did that impact you, like making that shift just career wise? We're going to get back to the mental aspect of it, but career wise, what did that shift from 9 to 5, having the idea and perspective, I want to help people. I'm working in this doctor's office where I have the desire to help people, but this isn't it. So what did that look like for you?
I think I was just young and delusional enough to just not think it through too much.
Mm.
Because I would not do it today. I would
so
not do it today. Because there are some days now where I'm like, man, I really just want to work at someone's doctor's office. I know that check will be steady. I don't have the worst thing I would have to worry about is like a coworker being nosy. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have to deal with this admin. I wouldn't have to deal with these website codes, embedding, all this other stuff. Okay, like what is an embedding? I don't know. I have to figure that out. Anyway, so I honestly think I was just delusional enough and ready to, or not ready to, I was pissed off enough at that job, at my coworkers, for just being in such a toxic environment. And I will say, it needs to be mentioned that that job did have a very nice 401k plan. So when I finally, and okay, now it's silly, but again, I need to let everybody know I was 21, like very young, baby.
Yeah. So
when my 401k hit $7,000, I was like, you'll never see me again.
I'm out of here.
Yeah. So it got to like, I saw that 7 and I was like, wait a minute. That's like 6 months that I could like make this work.
Yeah.
I could like live financially while I figured this, what is teaching like, all that stuff. Because anyway, I think now I'm like, girl, that was crazy. But that's what that looked like. It was like going, okay, I'm ready to get out of here. How can I make this work financially?
Yeah.
At that time, I wasn't a group fitness instructor.
Yeah.
I hadn't taught. I was just ready to make the leap. I was dumb enough to like not have a plan and go, all right, I can make $7,000 last.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, when you're in your early 20s, you're delusional enough to be like, I can make anything happen. I was a substitute teacher paying for my second associate's degree. I don't know, like off of a substitute teacher salary. Wow. Yeah. I don't even know how I did that, but hey.
But you did.
I did, okay? So knowing how necessary the wellness space is, and really being one with yourself is, and really being in tune with yourself is, have you seen or your perspective on people who feel like that space is a luxury? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Sit down, join the club. Like, how can we unpack this together?
Really?
So like, I'm a yoga teacher. I am one of the few Black yoga teachers in Orlando that I know.
Yeah.
And it's weird because like, there's a handful of us, but like, we're not hanging out together, and I don't know why, but that's a whole nother conversation. Anyway, so I continuously find myself in spaces where nobody looks like me.
Yeah.
So I am always reminded how much of a luxury and a privilege it is to be here, because my own family, they don't prioritize their well-being. They don't prioritize rest, true rest, in this way. So yeah, like it's tough. It's tough because it's not a luxury, but also in the capitalistic world that we live in, it very much is a luxury. So, and I also recognize that during when the pandemic happened, I panicked, like truly panicked. And I was like, I'm touching too many people. I'm out here in these streets. I gotta go. So I like redirected full time into my voiceover career, because at that time that those two things were overlapping. So I stopped teaching classes. I stopped doing my regular routine, and I paid the price. So I understand how, when you're not being paid to work out, how hard it is to integrate that into your life. So I understand how much of a luxury it is, but at the same time, it is a necessity.
Yeah, and I can attest to this from the like mental health aspect of it when it comes to the wellness, it's overall wellness, and the mental health aspect of it, especially in the Black community, is very much like it's almost non-existent. I feel like you have a good portion of our community that is really trying to like do the work, but there is a vast majority, they don't see that it is a necessity. They don't see that it is important. They will prioritize other means of dealing with themselves, and like I often am like, why not just really find the cure within yourself? Like, there is something about what you're going through, what you're dealing with, whether it's mental health, whether it's illness. Like, there's something about, if I was to, the breath work, all the things that comes with yoga especially, but there's something that can be really said if you were to spend time with that. Why is it considered a luxury? Because it everything costs something in this society. Everything costs, but is it going to be a negative cost or a positive cost? Like, how is it going to affect you? Because we can spend so much money on going to the hospital, or we can spend the money and buying prescriptions and all that, or we can spend money on dealing with ourselves at the core of like our breath work, our going to yoga, working out in some form or fashion, sitting on somebody's couch and dealing with your mental health. I feel like it's such it bothers me.
Well, the thing is that when you do those things, like we don't live in a vacuum.
We don't.
Right? So how much meditation can I do to fix these badass kids?
Girl.
How much meditation can I do if my marriage is the marriage that I need to be in? Sometimes people avoid doing the work because the work shines a light on areas in their life that need fixing, and change is scary, love. Change is so scary, and we do everything we can not to change. And I wanted to say, but I didn't want to interrupt you, our community, like we are resistant to therapy, but they're like the pocket of people that are talking about it, I find that a majority of us are intellectualizing it. We're using a lot of therapy speak, but we're not actually getting in there and changing what we are recognizing and verbalizing with our therapy speak is what we think is wrong with us. You know what I mean? So like, we have people out here that are like, well, because of my trauma, I am blah, 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 blah. And because of that, you need to treat me X, Y, and Z and communicate with me. Blah. And it's like, I'm
like, wait a minute.
So many of these things. Like, one, those are rules, not a boundary. A boundary is how you affect change. A rule is how other people affect things. So, like, there's a lot of us that are identifying that we need to change, identifying the trauma patterns in our lives, and then are just therefore intellectualizing it and not actually embodying the work of changing. because it's scary, because sometimes that might mean your friendship circles need to change, your partner needs to change, you might need to change how you parent and all of those things. You might need to change the state that you live in. Hi.
Yeah.
There's so many things that, like, in order, personally for me, in order to truly be well, and like where my husband and I are in the stage in our lives, it's like it ain't happening in the state of Florida. So
yeah. No, that's
I can't out meditate this administration. Like,
listen. You can't.
I can't. And the meditation, it's like a yes and type of thing. Like, the meditation is going to help me cope, and I need it for the state that I'm in. But unless in order for things to change and my environment to change, I have to take action. And that's the scary part that a lot of people don't want to do. They don't want to have uncomfortable conversations.
Ooh, everything you just said was so good, because yes. A lot of people, and that's why I don't listen to a lot of like relationship podcasts now, especially because
oh my God,
terrible. I really like dealing with the mental health aspect, but like you said, so many people aren't really doing the work, and the work is where the change happens. That's where it happens, is when you're actually taking the time to, like, I understand this about me through therapy. This is what I'm doing to change it. Like, people are so crazy to me, because like I started therapy. I've gone to therapy in the past, but like I restarted it because I realized there's a part of my grief that I'm like, am I unpacking this like the way I need to? Like, am I really, or am I just skating by and and what was happening is, like, the waves of grief would come and hit, and then I'm like, this is like taking me down, and it's taking me a while to recover. And so I started therapy so I can like have more tools to help and to cope and deal with things. I'm like, I show up to my therapist and I'm talking to her and I'm telling her, okay, I know I have tools in my toolbox, right? From other therapists that I've had in the past. However, because I know that things change, life happens again and again, and you're dealing with it every day, I want to make sure I have more tools in the toolbox, because I do have a daughter, and I don't want to be that parent that's taking my issues out on my child because I haven't dealt with them. So it's so interesting.
And you just blame, well, my mom raised me as blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, well, that's not helpful.
It's not.
So you know there's a problem. Okay, cool.
Correct.
And you're not changing it. Awesome.
Correct.
Thank you. Love that.
Literally, my daughter, this is a slight aside. My daughter the other day, she like threw her tablet across the room. So I was like, oh, no tablet. Like, we're not having that. You have to respect your things. And she was like, well, I guess she's heard grounded. And I was like, she said, well, can't you ground me? And I was like, no, why am I going to ground you? I was like, people parent their kids in different ways. I don't have to ground you. And one, you're 6. I'm not going to ground you. And 2, other people spank their kids. Some people would have spanked their child for doing what you did. I don't believe in doing any of that. Like, that's not the way I parent. I remember getting a spanking at like 6 years old because the people forgot to come pick me up for school. It wasn't even my fault. I'm not.
But you got home late. Yeah.
No, I stayed home. Like, they thought that I skipped school. My mom thought I skipped school. I was like in first grade kindergarten. I'm like, ma'am, I don't know anything about skipping school. They just literally forgot to pick me up to take me to school. So, but I got a spanking for it. That's the type of parenting. There's parenting styles that we can, and things that we have gone through that we can unlearn and we can change and do better. And I really feel like the work that you do is helping people. Like, I need to cope with certain things. So I'm going to go sit on somebody's couch. I'm going to go to church because I believe in prayer. I'm going to sit on somebody's couch because I believe in therapy, but I also believe in working out or going to yoga, something physical that can help with a different side of me that I need to deal with. Like evening myself out, like having chakras aligned. Like there's so many things. So many.
I believe like emotions are stored in the body, and like in order to process it all, you have to move your body to just like get it all out. And that's also why I think some people are resistant to movement. Especially men can be resistant to movement if it's not movement that's rooted in aggression. So like football, basketball, where you're charging, you know, like there's a level of aggression, but like that's also why, you know, yoga is seen as such a feminine thing, because or like Tai Chi, because there's no aggression in that. It's just movement for you to get in touch with your body. And that's seen as such a feminine thing, because women are more inclined to, you know, be in touch with their emotions, to be more in touch with their bodies. But there's still, you know, I find that as I've gotten older, my yoga practice has changed and my teaching has changed. It started off, like I said before, as a very like asana, like posture based, alignment based, like physical, like how can we perfect this posture? Because my thought process at the time was discipline in that aspect will then translate into discipline in other aspects of your life. Coming into alignment on your mat can allow you to come into can maybe open the door for you to question how else can you come into alignment, you know? And even in this moment, talking it back, it's like, oh man, Asatta, you had such great intentions. But people didn't see that. All they saw was, I need to make this perfect so it looks perfect. And it's like the antithesis of like what I actually wanted.
Yeah.
So as I got older and as my practice has changed, it's less about perfecting alignment and more about resilience and rest practices, because that is what's going to allow you to like downgrade that nervous system, get yourself into a state of that's appropriate for your environment. And then from that place, you're making decisions about your life and your community. That leads to that collective community care. So the practice has changed and my audience has changed, because that is I'm in a much more intentional place right now. And I'm asking people through this yoga practice to think more about their life and their actions. And let me tell you, people don't like that. People just want to come and get a cute little workout. They want to be like namaste and play spirituality and play enlightenment.
And that's not it.
The work is messy. Yeah. You know, I'm asking for a little bit more. And some people have been like, oh yeah, rock with it. Let's go, you know? And those are my people.
Yeah.
Some other people have been like, respectfully, I'm going to go over to a different yoga teacher. And it's like, okay.
Have fun over there.
She's wonderful. She's a great teacher. Your back bends are going to be amazing. You're going to have the splittiest splits known to split. Okay. And I really, you know, that was me. That used to be me. So I understand why they have that resistance.
Yeah.
But I'm in a different place now. Yeah.
And that's so good. It's about finding and being intentional about where you are in your journey, and and allowing people that are also in that same space to come with you. Like, you're inviting people to come along on the journey that you're also on in this very spiritual specific space that you're in right now. So I feel like that's amazing. I just have one more question for you. What's one lesson your own healing taught you that you are sharing now with others, other than like what you just mentioned? Like, what's something else that you've learned along the way?
Ooh, okay, so right now I am in like, well, do you ever end a grief journey? Does grief ever end?
No.
So, yeah. So I did not realize how resistant to grief I was in like different areas of my life. And like, I always knew I was like angry, of course, like I'm angry. But what is the anger covering up? A lot of fucking grief, man, a lot of grief. So in the last 2 years, my husband and I lost our life, like our soul dogs, our babies. We don't have any children. They're our children. We had them for 16 years, one, and 11 years, the other one. And we lost them 6 months apart. And
so
I did not realize, thank you, I appreciate that. So my husband and I have been together for 20 years. We've had these dogs for 16 years. I did not realize how much of like our lives, our like everything revolved around these two wonderful creatures.
Yeah.
So when they left and like, 2024 started and it was like literally just us, like everything changed. I'm figuring out how different my life is. One of them was really ill with lymphoma. And I never thought we would be the people that are like, we're giving our dogs like truly. But like grief makes you do the wildest stuff. Like it truly does.
Yeah. You're trying to save the last little bit that you can. I get it.
Literally. And we were just talking about how change is scary, so like we were just trying to keep our family together in like what we knew it looked like, so that was really tough. And like figuring out my life after that was hard. But one thing that I did learn was just being open to like grieving them, being open to talking about them, being open to just grief, the grief, and not being resistant to it. And from that has allowed me to properly grieve other aspects of my life that needed grieving that I did not realize. So that I have like imparted in my classes. I've got, one-on-one clients that we talk about things with. And like just being open to grief, because at this point, like truly this point in our life, this point in America's history, there's this point in being a woman trying to make decisions about my own damn body. Like there's a lot to grieve. There is so much to grieve.
Listen, there is. And first of all, thank you for sharing that. And I understand, as somebody who has grieved a lot, the people on my podcast know some of the things that I've shared about my grief journey, but I know grief it can be so heavy at times, and it can outweigh any positive thing that you have going on if you let it.
If you hold it, yes, it really paints everything.
Yeah.
And I want to also add that it has also allowed me to, by grieving and being open to grief, it has allowed me to be open to joy and experience that as well.
Yes.
Because there isn't that like bit of me that's holding on. There isn't that like anger. I can let the anger come and go. And then soon after there's joy.
Yeah.
Because there's always joy. You know.
Yes. That is so good. That's so good. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy, your
Thank you
flow.
for having me.
This was such a good conversation about really being intentional about your wellness journey, through it all, like through jobs, through everything, like realizing where you need to be and what you've been through and how to get yourself to the next space is so important. So I just want to thank you again. Go ahead and give people your information one more time, where they can find you, the name of your podcast, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so you can find me and connect with me on socials. I'm at Asatta Jones with an underscore. You can find my website at asattajones.com. I am launching at the end of June my online offerings. I'm really excited about offering some live stream classes. I've been really motivated lately to just expand my community outside of studio borders. And I've been very lucky and blessed to be able to work and network and collaborate with different studios all over Orlando. But now I just want to encourage people to have their at-home practice. And I want to encourage people to connect with each other outside, maybe virtually. Because sometimes you might find your soul sister lives in another city, you lives in another state, you know?
Yes.
So like your yoga, like I'm recently finding that my yoga community expands outside of Orlando. So I'm really excited about welcoming in people to that community. So you can find my online offerings at my website, asattajones.com. And I also host a podcast. It's called What Makes Me Well. I talk about different aspects of my guests' well-being. And we talk about all things from mental health to financial health to career, occupational health to environmental health. And please, I'd love to connect with you guys online and maybe see you on a mat at home.
Yay! Thank you so much. Well, all
You're
right,
so
guys.
welcome.
All right, everybody. It was so good to have this conversation today. I will check you guys in the next episode. Until then, peace.